Welcome back to Building Your Own Game, 2D Game in GameMaker. My name's Daniel.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
Last module we showed you how you can get some free assets, sounds, images, pictures, and this time we're actually going to show you how to do it yourself. So we're going to start with showing you how to create your own sprites in Inkscape. And then we're going to, after that, jump over and have a little fun with sounds. Personally, when I'm doing stuff in a game, I feel real invested when I actually create something. And one of the cool things, and one of the things that I like to show is I'm not an artist. If you put me in front of a board, if you put me in front of paper, put crayons in my hand, I couldn't draw to save my life. I'm a developer. And even beyond that, I'm a back-end developer, so I wasn't even great at creating forms. So I didn't think I had a lick of art ability. The great thing with a tool like Inkscape is I found out that even as a developer, even someone who doesn't think they can draw, you can draw in Inkscape. And that's what we're going to show you today. So let's go ahead and get started. The tool we're going to be using is called Inkscape, and it's from inkscape.org. It's an open source scalar vector graphic program, and I'll show you what that means. It's very similar to other programs, Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW, etc. But again, this is open source and free, so I love using it because it's easy for people to download and show them. So let's go ahead and open that up. If I open up Inkscape, the first thing that you're going to notice, and you know we talked about this with GameMaker itself, is that when you look at this IDE, there's just a ton of stuff all over the place. And so what I first like to do is get people focused and let them know that when I'm showing you this, you're not going to touch every one of these things. You're going to look at a few pieces and probably about 6 things you need to really get creative in building your art. The first thing I like to do is go up here and go to File. Oh, and one thing I'll add before we get started. Yeah, one thing I'll add before we get started is Natalie has never done this before, and so I'm putting her on the spot. I'm going to teach her live how to do this.
Yeah, I've never even opened this thing, so you'll see it all here.
Trust me, I'm a professional. I've done this before, and so we'll see how cool it is. And before she even starts, one of the coolest things about game art is it doesn't matter exactly what it looks like. If it's your character and you drew it, it'll look cool in the game, and you'll be invested in it. So let's go back to Inkscape. The first thing I like to do is, I personally don't like this page thing here. It kind of clutters it up. So I'm just going to go to File and Document Properties, and uncheck this box called Show Page Border, and then close this. It just gives me a wide open space. You know, there's some uses for that, but we're not going to dive into them. Now over on the left-hand side, you can see a lot of different things we can work with. We're primarily going to work with circles. We'll throw some squares in there too, and maybe use a pen or two. But we're going to use circles. So the first thing we're going to do is click on Circle, move over to the environment over here, hold down your Control key, and create a circle.
Mine's red.
Yours may be a different color, depends what the default is or what you used last. The last time I used this, I must have created a black circle. And that actually brings us to our next point. I'm hoping at least I don't have to teach anyone how to use a color picker. Down here on the bottom, you can see there's different colors you can choose from. We're going to create a game character, so we're going to create one that has a skin tone. If you want to create a monster, make them green or red, you can choose what you want. I'm going to choose a skin tone.
Can mine have pink skin?
Yours can have pink skin. That would be a fun monster, right? Not a very scary monster, but a fun monster.
How did you add that border to yours?
That's a great question. Again, one of the things that Inkscape does, and mine might be slightly different than yours, is because it remembers what you did last. Now, when I draw my game characters, I like that border. And to get that, that's called the stroke. So down here, let me...
Oh, the fill stroke?
Yeah, let me bring this up for everyone else. Down here on the bottom, you can see fill and stroke down here. And so that's an easy way to get to it, but if you want to just double click on either one of those, it'll open up this panel on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And there's 2 things that affect stroke. The stroke paint, which is probably black already. There could be a different one, but it's probably black already. And then stroke style. And you can see I have my width pumped up to about 20.
Oh, okay. Mine's just 1 right now.
Yeah. So you want to pump that up. And again, it depends on the style you start working with when you're creating your character. So, we have our head.
Wait, sorry. Actually, mine's not getting any thicker. Oh, wait. It did.
There
Cool.
you go.
There you go.
And so now what we want to do is we kind of want to work with this head, and I want to give it an ear. And so I'm going to actually click over here on the circle again and create a smaller circle. And I'm dragging just to show again. If I hit Control and click drag, it makes it a circle.
So the control keeps like the ratio or something?
Yeah. It'll snap you to the circle properties. And if you don't want that, obviously you can do an oval, and that's just click and drag. So whichever shape you kind of want. Again, you don't have to do it exactly like I'm doing. If you're following along at home, you don't have to do it exactly. One of the things I will show you is right now we are a circle, and it enjoys the properties of being a circle. We'll talk about nodes a little bit later, but you can see there's a few nodes on here. 2 of them are square, and 1 of them is circular. If I grab this with my mouse, I can make this into different portions of a circle. The reason I point this out is because, remember, Inkscape remembers. So if I drew a next one, it would have that Pac-Man shape as well. And we don't want that.
Which button did you press to move that?
So I have to be selected on it.
Yeah.
And if you just have it selected like this, you actually have to have the circle selected over on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And then the circular node allows you to change it.
Can you put my screen up there? It's not doing it. Oh, I see it. Yeah, see, I'm dragging this part and I don't... Wait, not that part?
No, so let me bring that up again. So there's 2 square ones. If you drag the square ones, it will just squash it.
Yeah.
And the circular one
Oh, there you
will
go.
make it a circle, yeah. There you go.
Cool.
And it's important thing that I bring this up. It's not just to make it a half a circle, because I want to show this tip early. 2 things. If you're working with a circle, you have your selector tool. It's not a circle anymore, right? You can move it around, you can modify it. To get back to the properties of a circle, you have to have circle selected. And one of the things that always happens is next time you draw a circle, it's going to be this shape. You notice when you have circle selected up here, up on top, you can have 3 options here. And to make it a full circle again, you click on this top option, make it a whole ellipse, and you have your circle back.
Cool.
Okay, so now we want to move it over. Now, 2D characters, you're always kind of looking at the side of their face, but not completely the side of their face. So we're going to make him looking to the left, and his ear is going to be over here to the right. And we can leave it like that, but that kind of makes it like a Princess Leia type thing. It also looks like a nose if he's looking this way. We're going to show you a trick that you'll use time and time again. Now, there's only a few key things that you're going to use to work with Inkscape. Inkscape's a powerful tool, but we're only going to work with a few of them. And what we want to do is highlight both of these, because I don't want a circle on top of a circle. I want these to make one object. So if I click on one, I hold down Shift and click on the other, you can see they're both selected. Mm-hmm. It's easy to do. You can also lasso them.
Yeah.
That's harder to do when there's more objects, because they'll be within the lasso. And what I want to do is go to this Path tool. Now, this Path tool, again, has a lot of stuff, but the menu items are pretty self-explanatory. I want to actually make this ear part of the head. So I'm going to do Path, and then Union. You can see now we have an ear on the,
Oh, cool.
on the left-hand side, so it brings them together. But you'll also notice that it's no longer a circle, right?
Yeah.
I can't get any circle properties, so the circle's gone.
Mine doesn't really look like an ear.
That's okay. It doesn't have to look exactly like an ear. Mine doesn't even look like an ear yet. So the next thing we want to do is draw some eyes. So those are pretty easy. Let's go ahead and I'm going to hit the Control button and scroll wheel.
That zooms in.
Yeah, just to make it zoom in a little bit, so we have some room to work with. And I'm going to grab a circle again. I told you this is not going to be rocket science. And I'm going to create an eye.
I'm going to make these different colors.
Yeah, the color is going to be, I'm going to make mine white, of course. And actually I want to make the stroke a little bit less on the eye. So I went to the stroke panel over here on the right and changed the width to a 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that doesn't have to be as thick.
And then we want an eyeball. And you're going to use this all the time. We need to duplicate this item. So we need to make an exact duplicate. So just Control D makes an exact duplicate.
Oh, okay. That's faster than...
And it'll put it on, if you do a Control C and a Control V like you might be used to, it won't put it right on top of it. There's sometimes where you want it right on top of it.
All right.
So you can see there's some properties here. We can make this bigger or smaller. So if we have just the selection tool selected, we can make it bigger or smaller. We want to make it smaller.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
And then we're going to make that my eyes are going to be blue, right? And then with that selected, I'm going to do Control D. I'm going to make that black. Get a little smaller for the eyeball. And then I'm actually going to make it give me a little glimmer in the eye, and I'm going to do Control D. Make that white.
That's cool.
And kind of make it like so.
Mine doesn't look that way yet. Okay, let's see.
It's okay if it's not perfect. If it's close, it's cool. It's very pink. Yours is kind of a monster. Yes, I'm actually liking it.
Oh, the glimmer.
All I did is clicked on the smallest one, did Control D again,
Control D.
and then made it smaller
there
and
it
made it
is.
white. Yeah.
Very cool.
Now there's a lot of moving pieces in that, right? So we want to lasso it. And you notice that even though I'm lassoing on top of the head, it's not grabbing it. For the lasso to grab stuff, it's got to be contained in the lasso. And if you haven't done a lasso before, it's just click, left click, and pull down. Because we want to be able to move this as one item and not have the eyeball go all over the place, right? So we're just going to do Object and Group. You might have done this in PowerPoint before, another program. It's not that big of a deal. And actually, while we're here, I'm going to show you this too, because you're going to have things in front of each other or back of each other, and you need to move them. This is probably something you've done before, but these right here will lower it to the bottom or bring it to the top or step it.
Okay.
So if it's ever something behind it and you want it in front of it, just use these tools right here, lowering or bring it up.
Yeah.
Again, it's not
That's
tough.
heavy.
So now we want to, our person has two eyes, right?
Right.
So we want to, what would we do to
Duplicate that whole group,
Yep.
maybe?
Control D. We want to move it over. And so we have perspective. We want to make it a little smaller, right? Because that one's a little farther away. So he's starting to, kind of look like a character here.
Mine looks like a little puffer fish or something.
But again, like I said, that's not, actually it does look like a puffer fish. But that's the cool thing. One thing I'll mention in working with this and when you're creating your own sprites, don't worry about the amount of detail, because this is what it looks like in Inkscape.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like in your game. Maybe that. So you notice the white, it's still showing up, but when you get little tiny detail, it's not going to show up. So when you're working with sprites and when you're creating your own stuff, just make sure that you're not going crazy on the little detail, because you'll spend hours and hours and no one will ever even see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next big thing. So Inkscape has a concept of nodes. So you'll notice, first of all, scalar vector graphic is different than a program like Paint.net or Photoshop, where you're working with pixels. And when you work with pixels and when you expand them, they get pixelated, right? You can see the little squares. Scalar vector graphic doesn't do that. Doesn't matter what size you make it, it'll scale to that size. You can see it's not losing the fidelity at all. So that's what a scalar vector graphic program is. And the reason that's cool is because, say you create a game character and you want it on a phone and you also want it on a tablet, you're going to have different sizes depending on what you're going to put it on. So you want to be able to export them in different sizes without having to recreate it at different sizes. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is nodes. So again, we're only working with a few tools over here. The selector tool is easy. We've already worked with that. We'll play with it more. The one right down that looks like a selector tool is a node tool. If I click on that, you'll notice that our guy changes a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a red border coming up.
Well, just like the circle, it now has these nodes. And what this allows me to do is move things. So I don't like this ear. So if I click right on those squares, I can move those. You can see that it's got a Bezier curve on each of those too, so I can, make it the curve exactly how I want it. And honestly, yeah, now mine's looking like a fish too.
Yeah.
So I can Control Z back out of there. We'll leave him like that.
Fin.
This, there you go. See, your person can be a fish. That's great. This, to me, was the absolute power of being able to do something in Inkscape, because when I draw it, I can't erase it and draw it again. But in here, I can kind of know what I want and then just keep nudging it and keep nudging it and keep nudging it. And it gives me, like this ear is probably a little too big, that circle I put. But now that's looking like an ear, right?
It's adorable now.
Yeah. So you'll notice that there's nodes that are already on here. But what if I wanted to pull it out here, or maybe give him a jaw right here? With this selector tool, select it again. All I do is click on my object where I want it, or double click, I should say. And now I can pull that out.
Oh, it's so silly.
And so, wherever you actually want that to happen, I can actually make that his nose if I want. I can bring that up. It kind of looks like a nose. We're not going to spend a ton of time making him perfect. That's what, the time when you're working on this on your own, you can spend the time tweaking it. And that's, again, the beauty of this is you can tweak it until you're happy with it. Okay, next we need a mouth. And we're going to, again, take a circle. See, I'm doing this all with circles. We're not even going crazy in any of these other tools yet.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to put a mouth right there. And to move it, I went from the circle selector to the select tool up here, and I moved it. And he could be yelling like that. You notice that we've already moved this and made it bigger and smaller, but if I double click it again, you notice that the arrows change. And this allows me to turn it on its axis, and you'll know it shows me where the axis is. Now we're going to use this for arms and feet later, but you notice if I move that.
Which one was that?
So if I'm here,
yeah,
and it's selected, if I click on it again, it'll give me that tool. And then it might not show very well. Let me zoom in here. Right here is where I'm talking about. You can move this, and then it will spin on that axis, whatever that axis is.
Okay, I've turned mine.
And so I moved mine over, so you see now it spins like that. It doesn't make much sense now to change that, just to show you, but it does when you're maybe using arms or legs and you need the axis to be at the shoulder or at the hip, right? So let's actually make it back a circle. It's still a circle, right? And so we want to do what we did before, because I want half a mouth. Maybe we want a screaming mouth. Let's actually leave it like that, because we already showed you the half circle. But I'm going to make the inside color of it black. And I want to draw some teeth. Now you don't have to do this. I could go in here and grab something and draw some teeth in here, or I can do a square one. And
that's cool. I want to add like 2 front teeth onto my little fish.
And I can draw some teeth on there. But what I want to show you is not just how to draw perfect teeth, but how to use a technique you'll use again and again and again. The first thing I actually want to do to make sure it cuts perfectly, you'll notice that we still have a stroke on here.
Yeah.
I want the stroke off.
Yeah, I guess you don't need to outline the mouth.
So we saw up here on the right-hand side the fill-in stroke. On the stroke,
Press the X.
just press the X and it's gone.
Cool.
I want to make it black again, so it's his mouth, so we don't have that border messing with us. The next thing I want to do is use this tool over here. This is one of the 5 or 6 that you're going to use. It's used to draw.
Second pencil tool.
Yeah, it's right under the pencil tool.
Yeah.
And it's used to draw Bezier curves, and some people might go, what's a Bezier curve? Who cares? You know, this
Doesn't even matter.
This is teaching developers how to draw, right? So we're going to do this pen-looking tool, and that's what we're going to use in a second here. And all we're going to do is move it over here, and we're going to click outside the mouth.
Okay.
Anywhere outside the mouth. It doesn't even need to be perfect. We're going to move. You're not dragging, you're just moving. Click outside the mouth again. Click up top here. Just make sure you don't intersect the mouth. And click here. And then end right where we started.
How did you get yours to be straight lines? Mine's like curving around.
You're clicking and dragging.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you click and drag, it'll do that. If you just click, and then click, and click, and click. So I will do that once again for everyone watching. I just click, don't hold down your mouse, click outside again, outside again, outside again, and then finish where you started. And we have an object. I like to just to fill it so we see what's going on. So I'm going to fill it with white. And you see we have 2 objects. Now I want to make those teeth fit exactly in that circle, precisely in that circle, without me having to go and draw that in. And so we're going to intersect these 2. So when you use an intersect, it will make one object out of 2 objects. So before we start, we need to click on our mouth. And how do we duplicate again?
Control D.
Do Control D. And then we want to grab 2 objects, so we do Shift and grab the teeth we drew. And we go to Path and Intersection. If you look at these things, you can kind of see what they do, right? So intersection will give me the exact teeth right on top of that, right? You will use this again and again, whether you have like an arm and you need to draw a shirt on it, or you need to, whenever you need something to fit exactly on top of another shape, you'll use that again and again and again. So it's still kind of a basic mouth, but that technique.
I don't know if mine looks like teeth, but I get what you're saying.
Close enough, you know, close enough.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to do is use that Bezier curve tool. So I want to make the ear a little bit more. And so I'm just going to, outside of the head, click, 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 and finish up here and make a triangle. I want to fill it in using the color down here.
So you can really draw any shape with this, or is it better to do straight line shapes?
You can draw a lot of stuff with this. I do not have the ability to do that. I'm the put it on there and then I'll fudge it around.
Yeah.
But yes, you can go crazy. People will have the drawing boards that they use to actually freehand. Again, I told you I can't freehand. But again, it's made me so excited to realize I can actually create characters. So we're going to go back to the node tool.
Okay.
Because we want to modify this triangle. So with this is selected, I can turn it and stuff. But when the node tool is selected, I can actually modify this triangle, and I kind of want it like that.
Can you show how that worked? Mine's not bringing up that many.
So if you already have the triangle, all I did was, with it selected, I went to the node tool, and then I double-clicked right on the edge here, and it gave me another node, which allowed me to just kind of pull it in like that. Let me actually, I can make that bigger.
Mine doesn't have another node.
Okay, let's
doing this right?
Let's delete the whole thing and start over. It'll go quickly. Delete. So I grab the Bezier curve tool. I just go click. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Click, 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 and click to finish it. And then I'm going to fill it. and then I'll click the Edit Paths by Node, and it will automatically at the corners have one.
Yeah.
And then I just double click on the edge with this selected. Double click.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So you can make as many as you want.
Right.
You could turn this into some crazy complex shape. Awesome. And then those are the ones I can just pull out to the side?
Exactly.
Where'd
So
they
let me
go?
do that one more time for my guy. I need to make it the right size here. And I'm going to kind of just make it like that. Do it quickly. I want to make a copy of it. I need two of them, or two more of them. So Control D and Control D. I'll put one there. And actually, I was going to use a couple of these, but you'll find this out too, that I'm just going to move them like this.
I made mine into gills.
Yeah, you just start. That's exactly right. I was going to actually use 3 of these, but I think 2 might do. You can see he had his ear before. And actually, I think I like 2 better. So now that gives him a definition of the ear, right? And I would tweak that more. You can see how I did it with Dave later, but you can see now that looks like his ear, right? With
Yeah.
very simple shapes, so nothing crazy. Okay, so here's the fun part. We are
Gets
going.
more fun than this?
It does. It does. This is where people really like it. So we need to draw hair, and drawing here, we're going to use that same Bezier tool.
Okay.
So we're going to click on that Bezier tool.
Do I want to make it thicker?
Nope.
Okay.
Don't need to make it thicker. So we need to, let's start, I don't know, click right here in his head.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go up here, over his head. Actually, let me start over again. I'm making sure I'm not going into his head here, and you'll see why in a second. I'm just doing some crazy shapes. Remember, he's sideways, so I'm going to make some maybe bangs out here. And I'm just moving and clicking, moving and clicking. I actually want him to have some crazy sideburns. Connected together, just like we did with the triangle, just like we did with the teeth. And then we color it. He's going to be a redhead. And bam.
I was trying to make a mohawk.
Yeah, see, you've never done this before, right?
Oh, it's
That's a
adorable.
cool looking fish. That's what I'm saying. This is a fun tool, and it's a fun tool for developers. So I'm going to go
Awesome.
quick. We can spend a ton of time on this. So I'm going to show a couple more techniques really quickly. One is we wanted to maybe smooth these nodes out, right? So it's not all crazy sharp. So with this selected and the node tool selected, I can lasso these top ones up here. Okay, so I'll start that over again.
Okay.
I select the hair, I select the node tool,
Here, the node tool.
and then using the node tool, I'll
yeah.
lasso these ones on the
Lasso the
top.
top.
And yours might be a little different, so you might not need to do this.
Yeah.
And you see you have all these different options. And these are really just for you to play with as you get comfortable with them. But there's one called Make Selected Node Smooth. So I smooth it out, and now his hair is not as choppy, it's more wavy. You notice,
Oh, okay.
you notice I left
Yeah.
this sideburn sharp.
Yeah, if you don't want him to be as much of a rock star, you can.
Right, and so you just play with that. So I'm going to create a very quick body just by doing another circle again. And again, it's in front of him. You know, I would spend time, I would create a neck, I would create all that stuff. I'm going to create, I'm going to use the square tool, rectangle, squares. And so if I click on that, it's used the same exact way. Now, you might notice that there is a circle on here as well to modify it, and that will round the corners. So if you wanted rounded corners, you can do that. And actually we do, because we're making arms and legs. And so what I want to do is do some simple arms and legs. I'm going to do Control D for the arms, for the legs, we'll say.
What was that rotate option again?
So rotating it, you want to, actually I'll show that in a minute,
Okay,
because
cool.
that's part of what we're showing. And then I'll do one more, Control D, and I'm going to make this black for the arms so we can see it. And I'm going to do this quickly. It's exactly what we did before. I want a hand down here, right? And I want it to be the color of his face. So I'm just going to do a simple hand by doing stretching across. This is the same way we created the teeth. I want it to be flesh colored. I want it, if I don't remember what color I picked, here's a color picker right here. Again, you've probably used a color picker a million times. I want to make it that color. So don't forget, we need to make a copy of this, do Shift, and then do Path and Intersection. And so now that looks like a hand. I'm going to group it by doing Object Group, and I'm doing this quickly because we've done this before. But the last thing I want to do is we need to make sure this twists. And I told you, if you have the selection tool selected and you click on it, it allows you to make it bigger or smaller. But if you click on it again, it allows you to twist it. But this thing right here, let's see if I can get that big enough for everyone to see, is where it's going to rotate its axis. And we want these to rotate at the shoulder. I want to move that up. And so now when I rotate it, it'll rotate like an arm should. And I'll make a copy of it. Put one here. Rotate this one. Put it here. And of course that needs to go behind his body. And we're done. I mean, we could go crazy on this. The only thing I'll show is you'll notice in the platform starter kit, the walk cycle for him is just his legs going up and down. Easiest way to make a walk animation in GameMaker is to make different images where his legs are going up and down.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what the robot does in there. Yeah, it's very quick way to do a walk cycle.
Yeah.
So let's see your final fish.
I have like a little arm just stuck.
Nice.
At the bottom. I was trying to make like those little tiny dinosaur
Again,
arms,
and you're not an artist, and you've never done this before, right?
I don't know. Yeah, no.
That's what I'm saying.
Not an artist.
I love showing people this because I'm always in awe of their creativity. That's a cool looking
mohawk
fish. Yeah,
with
mohawk
tiny
fish.
Arms.
Right. I love it. Okay, so let me show you a few things because you might think, oh yeah, well that's cool, but yeah, it's not that great. You know, what can I do with circles and squares, right? So I first want to show you my original Dave in the Cave.
Dave in the Cave. There he is.
This was my original, my first pass at it. I used a lot of stuff, and I was actually proud of him. But then I started working and playing with stuff, and here's my finished version of Dave in the Cave.
I like the pants on that. They look wrinkly.
Yeah, without his, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So that was without his hat.
Yeah.
And one thing we didn't talk about in this short video is layers. You can see that I have different things on different layers so that I can take them off and show them and splice them. We're not going to go that deep into this. But what I did want to show you, his legs, I'm actually glad you pointed out his legs. If I actually highlight all this stuff, you'll notice it's made up of a bunch of different pieces. It looks pretty complex, but if I start moving this out, you can see that the shadow is just like the triangle we created, right? And just a different color. Just another shape. Same for this one. Look at his pant. And I start moving this out, you can see.
Yeah, they're just
They're just circles and squares that I've modified. This is just a rectangle. And this was just a circle. I'm like, okay. And then this was another rectangle that I go, oh, it'd be cool if his jeans were out. And so I just grabbed it and pulled it out, right? And I can do this, and if I just put it there, you notice that I was like, oh, let me grab this one out. I'm like, oh, that looks bad. How do I fix that? Oh, I'll just grab another circle and cover it up.
Yeah.
Right? So altogether, it looks complex. And the whole thing is built like that. So just because we did a simple character here quickly, the same techniques I just showed you can use to build
easily add
more
like
and
a
more
t-shirt
complex
or
ones.
something onto this guy. That's
So-
awesome.
So let's talk about the next steps in that.
How do I get my little fish in the game?
Yeah. So this was also very difficult. So the more complex your character, the more difficult it is going to be to animate him. So Dave is actually a kind of, for me anyway, a complex character. He's got a lot of moving parts. And I've never done this before. I go, well, how do I make him look like he's running? And so I searched on the internet for run cycle. And so I found this image and go, okay, so if I place him in these poses, when he's in the game, he'll look like he's running. This took a lot of time.
So did you just move around the shapes to create the different poses? Like you moved around his legs and stuff?
Yeah. Piece by piece by piece.
Good thing you had those grouped.
Yeah, so remember that the more complex your character is, the more difficult it is going to be to animate him. If I can show you one more, my new guy called Little Guy, and this is another game I'm working on. You can see that he's got a lot of cuteness, but his arms and legs, he doesn't have arms and legs. He has feet and hands.
Shoes.
But people don't notice that in a game. And like once you get your own style that you like, you'll notice that your art always looks the same. So I took the same little guy and I turned him into a Martian. I turned him into a football player. And
little outfit.
yeah, I'm from Chicago, so I made him a cubby as well. And with this one, you can see that I was very quickly able to animate him. And we'll show everyone how to pull him in. So we're not going to spend the time to animate the ones we just created. I just took him and moved his feet.
Yeah, that must have been way faster than doing those legs.
And it's still a little choppy. I could take a little bit longer to move that, but remember when you're creating your game and you're creating your assets to think about the complexity of your characters when you're doing that.
Right.
So was that fun?
Yes, I'm very proud of my little mohawk fish.
I'm actually very proud of you too. I love showing people this, and I'm amazed. We were just at another session, and this guy never touched it before, and he had this amazing dragon with this tail that was flopping up in the air, and I'm like, you've never done this before? You've never drawn before? And he's like, no.
This tool is so easy.
Yeah.
I really never looked at it until today, and now I'm like, ooh, I want to see what that star thing does. And the spray can looks like the old thing in Microsoft Paint where you can just spray all over your guy. But I'm very proud of my little mohawk fish.
Cool.
Indeed.
So, along with creating your own characters, creating your own sounds is another good thing to do. So, again, and let me tell you why you want to create your own characters. And I use this analogy all the time. So, you notice that Dave in the cave, we showed earlier, there was some lava in one of the rooms. And when he jumps in lava, I wanted his head to catch on fire. Well, if you're getting a sprite sheet from the internet and part of that sprite sheet doesn't have your character's head on fire, you can't do it. And it's hard for you to recreate someone else's art. So creating your own characters and creating your own assets really give you the ability to go with your creativity and follow it. And again, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't have to be better than another artist. It just has to be yours and look interesting. So in addition to that, or on top of that, I think sounds is the same thing. So I have a couple things to show you on sounds. So sounds, to me, are a ton of fun. So we already showed in the last section how you can get sounds from the internet. A ton of fun to actually go into Audacity and make your own explosions or make your own, pew-pews and gun sounds and all that stuff. But sometimes you want some background music, or you want stuff in the game that is very specific to your game. In Dave in the Cave, I have him walking up a ladder. I have him picking up coins, different sounds that need to happen while we're working in the game. So I'm going to show you a couple tools that are really cool And just like I'm not an artist, I'm also not a musician. So this one tool I'm going to show you is called Soundation. Soundation, I always put an N in there for some reason. It's just at soundation.com. And this tool has free parts to it and has paid parts to it. You can just sign up. You can see I'm already logged in up here on the right-hand side. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on Launch the Studio. Now this has a bunch of channels for you to mix music together.
And this is all in the browser?
It's all in the browser and,
That's so
and
cool.
allows you to export it from the browser. So we have different channels, and I'll show you, we're not going to go into every aspect of music mixing again. This is just to show you how you, as a developer like me, can create your own stuff really easily. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of the audio channels, and the first thing I'm going to do is a drum machine. Drum machine's always fun. If you do know your sound stuff, you can change this to your heart's content to tweak it exactly how you want. There's different drum kits, etc. I'm going to leave the default and just close that. And then I'm going to click on the timeline by the drum kit. I'm going to double click on the sound timeline just to create it. Let's try and reboot that. Soundation.com. Bring it back to drum machine. Close that.
So you can pick any
There we
instrument
go.
or sound you want, I guess.
Yeah.
That's cool. You could make a full rock band or something.
Yeah, so it wasn't like in my double click, but now it is. So you can see I have a piano here on the side. I have drum machine selected. So you notice if I click up here, nothing's happening. You have to be down here around C3. And you'll notice all the drum stuff. You can see there's a clap. There's different types of drums, different snares, etc. And all you need to do, and I'm going to start with the clap, is use this pen tool right here. I think the clap is this one. And you just need to place them on the timeline. And I can go ahead and run it. I want to make sure it loops. And if I run this, I can actually add one here. So I got a nice clap going. We want to add some stuff to it though. Let's find some other things to add to it. Add these to the timeline. Run that. So it's starting to get a good groovy beat going. I can add some other stuff. Might be getting a little funky,
Yeah.
but we'll go ahead and stop that. And close this, because besides drums, we want, maybe the piano. Let's do simple piano. There we go. And so we can make this a little more mysterious. Let's play it.
That's coming together.
Yeah, so see, I'm just clicking around. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just clicking around. And you play with this. And so, in different levels or when different stuff is going on, you want the music to change. And again, this is from a developer. It was really cool to, I can't plug in my organ and get the MIDI on there and create something with my fingers, but I can move this stuff around. Again, this has been fantastic for me. So you can create your own like this. And let's go ahead and stop that before it drives you crazy. And let's actually delete these. Because you notice down here over here on the right-hand side, there's some other stuff as well. So there's free sounds. Again, there's a free part and a premium sounds. And so you can dive into here and see other stuff that they have. So these thankfully let you know whether they're 125 beats or 130 beats, so you can kind of match stuff together. You can preview them.
Can you add effects onto your own sounds in here?
Yeah, so you can.
Those drums
I could have left those drums, so you can
Okay.
take what we have here, and so this is a beat clap. You know, I'm a child of the '80s, so I obviously like a good clap. So I could just drag it up here, and let's see. Maybe I want Beat Crazy. Let's see what that sounds like. And I like that too. So let's move that up here. And then I don't know. Let's try some other ones here. And I think we'll pair these together. And I'm going to do Control-C, Control-V, and go here. And I can keep extending this out. The one thing I need to do is make sure the timeline, this yellow bar on the top, stretches all the way to the right. And we can go ahead and play this. And so you can just mix these stuff together and have a lot of fun. Yeah, it's really easy to use. You know, might actually take a while for you to tweak it to be exactly what you want, but it's a fantastic tool. The other tool I want to show you, let's stop that, is something, it's a very simple but great tool that I've used myself. That allows you to do very simple sound effects for picking up coins or other stuff. And it's SFXR, and it's at drpetter.se, and you can find it there. I have it already downloaded. And you can, check out the README file to find out more how to use it, but it's very simple. You just open it up, and it has the sounds you'd expect from a game, picking up a coin. Let me actually make that a little louder for this one. And you notice that as I'm clicking this, it's giving me different coin sounds. So there's an explosion. If I like that one, I can play it again to make sure. Yeah, but I can modify it myself. So you notice I did the slide and it projected it a little bit more, a little repeat speed.
So that has like common game sounds you might need.
Yeah, common game sounds, laser shooting, power-ups, laser shoot, etc. And I love this tool, and I've used it obviously
I've known about this.
Yeah, every gold piece that I have in there is using one of these sounds that I created to pick up a piece of gold in Dave in the Cave. So it was very helpful to me. And then of course, like you showed Audacity last time, I could tweak it even more by pulling in an Audacity and using that. But that's all we had for today in this module. Hopefully you enjoyed building character in Inkscape.
Fun.
It was a lot of fun. And we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.